Welcome again, guys. This is the K Square Show, and I'm your host Kefa. And today we have a topic which we will discuss with my guest here. And first thing first, may she introduce herself to us so that we may get to know her, and then to the viewers so that we may get to the story, our topic today. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Ruth Stephanie. I'm a student psychologist, and thanks for having me.
Welcome so much. Steph, you may tell us what is depression so that we can get the whole ordeal and then as we move downwards.
Okay. Depression is a mood disorder that is characterized by deep feelings of sadness and emptiness. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. At least now we know what is depression. If I may pick from you, it's a mood disorder.
Mm.
Now, being a mood disorder, um, what can how can we know that a person is depressed or a person has depression by the name?
Okay. So the signs and the symptoms of depression are sadness,
Yeah.
feelings of emptiness, feelings of hopelessness. Um, there is grief, there is irritability. We also have mood swings, changes in the eating patterns, changes in sleep patterns, um, loneliness and isolation, among others. There are many. It's not a one size fits all, but those are the major ones.
Okay. So if also I may understand, there some people when they have this mood disorder, if I may say, like I heard from somewhere that people, most of the people who attempt to suicide or attempt, most of them they may be have been depressed, and then we have so many things which depression itself leads people into. There's even drug abuse people get into so that they can relieve themselves, but at the end of the day they want to kill themselves. So viewers, we need to understand that how the effects of depression and how is it eating the society. So my friend Steph, now we are going downwards that at least we have understood what is depression, and these are the signs and symptoms of depression. Now, how does it affect us, the generation, the youth, our mothers, our parents in general? What are the effects of it?
The effects of depression will be withdrawal from people, because in that phase people don't want to interact with other people, so they withdraw. There's a tendency to withdraw. We also have drug and substance abuse, because when someone is feeling so low, it's normal for everyone to want to feel good. So in search of that good, the high, one may venture into drugs and alcohol, and which could lead to abuse and addiction later on, because you always want to tap on the high. Understand? We also have family breakup, because depression is one of the illnesses that is surrounded by so many myths. Like, people say it is a curse, it is, all that. So if people around you are not aware or do not understand what depression really is, some of the families break off. There is also stigmatization, because, man, what are you? Because people do not understand what the illness is about. But it is just a mental health illness, just like people have other illnesses, just like the way you experience headache. But now this is in the mental perspective. We also have financial constraints, because if I need medication, because at the levels we have three levels of depression. So we have the low, that is the mild depression. We also have the moderate depression, and we have severe depression. So in moderate and severe depression actually requires hospitalization or medication per se. Moderate depends on where you are, because just like we say moderate, you can fall on this. But for the mild depression, that can do with therapy.
Oh yeah.
So in the case, whichever method you choose to counteract or to treat, it is expensive, because therapy is expensive. That's a cost. Medication is also a cost. So we have financial constraints, but that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
We can always have a means. We have illnesses left, right, and center, and we're all trying to survive. So those are some of the effects, if I could say.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you so much again. At least we come to understand how depression eats our generation and people in general. So what we should understand now is that after we know how depression is eating the generation, now again another thing which we may ask ourselves now, what causes now depression? And after we get to know what causes depression, how can we treat depression, or how can we prevent depression from us? So my guest here will help us to understand what causes depression. So Steph, if we may go and then tell us a little bit what causes depression, so that we may understand this.
Okay. Depression has many causes. Allow me to start with a genetic predisposition. And this means that if I have depression, we go back to looking at 3 generations before me. Maybe does any of my parents have depression, or did any of my grandparents have depression? So if there is a history of depression, then that could be a cause. You're already predisposed to it. So that's the genetic predisposition. We also have drug and substance abuse, because if you're constantly feeling low, you will want to seek a high, just to feel good. So it could lead to that when you get into drugs, you develop that tendency, see. And what drugs do, they alter with the brain function, and with the hormone serotonin. It is the mostly associated mood hormone. So once you have alterations in the brain, it trickles down to every other part, see, because our body has a natural way of balancing itself. Speak about the hormones, speak about the neurotransmitters. So when that is altered, you could end up into depression. So there is abuse, the physical, the verbal, emotional abuse, that is neglect or abandonment. There is sexual assault. Abuse could lead to depression, see, because of the trauma. Or yes, so that can also alter and disposes one to depression. We also have major life events. Let's say I got involved in an accident. So basically let's call it trauma. If you've been in major life events that have a traumatic experience, you're at risk of depression. We also have serious illnesses, chronic illnesses, that also makes people get into depression.
Okay. Thank you so much. Maybe if I also try to pick up some few points. There is a case where a person has a close relative passing on, and then that one, if it's a parent or someone who you are dependent on, I think also depression may come in.
Yes.
Because that's a person you miss. There is an emptiness, a feeling of emptiness actually, as we defined depression from the start. So these are the major issues which are affecting us and which may lead people into depression. So now, as we are trying to narrow down and then we understand more what is depression, these effects which are which are coming in, it is the things which we need to know how we can adjust so that we can narrow down into negative depression, if I may call it negative. So, guys, at least we are learning, and then we should learn actually each and every day, because if I may tell you an example of mine, if I may ask you, do people come to know that they are depressed or not? Before you answer that, I may give you a real example, which is I myself, that there was a case, recent past, that I myself, I didn't know that I was going through a lot of things, that my mind felt like a feeling of emptiness. I was missing a lot of things, and it is one day that I came to realize that I was depressed, but I didn't realize by myself. I went to my friend who is a doctor, and then he told me, Kefa, this thing, you need to relax. You need to know that life has a lot of challenges, and you need to know how to adjust into life. It doesn't matter how harsh life is, and that's how people now, they tend not to relax and know that life is going to be in a way which you have to adjust to that life. So I came to realize that I was depressed. So how can a person know that him or her is depressed? Kindly.
Depression, as we call it, it needs a diagnosis that is not from you.
Okay.
Allow me to say that, because we've had instances of misdiagnosis. Because on your own, you can tell you may have all these symptoms, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are depressed.
Okay.
Let's say,
Yeah.
because in life we all have a phase where we get into depression, but mild depression. But when it comes to the moderate and the severe depression, that you need a clinical diagnosis. So you can seek that from mental health practitioners, those are the psychologists or psychiatrists.
Okay.
But if you see you have symptoms, then seek advice, seek help. You see, yes, because that there's a difference between me feeling sad. Depression. In depression, you feel sad, but it is intense. It is an intense feeling of sadness and low moods and emptiness. But we all get sad, right?
True.
So we should know where to distinguish between sadness and depression.
Okay. So thank you, guys. We are learning much. There is much information which we may not know, but we should learn. So as we go and then search ourselves, that each and everyone, that wherever you are, whenever you think that you're feeling lonely, you feel a feeling of emptiness, you are too much sad, you want to isolate yourself, you're too much lonely. So kindly soul search yourself, and then if it is more important, kindly seek assistance to as she said that we have psychiatrists, medical practitioners. Kindly seek help. Guys, welcome again. This is the K Square show, and we are back. Going to the last phase, treatment and how to help people who are depressed, and how to help the society in this problem which we call depression. So, Steph, we are going to the last phase. We need to treat people, we need to help people who are depressed, and then so that the society may understand genuine ways on how they can follow so them to get help. So kindly, Steph, help us.
Okay. Let me start by saying depression is treatable, and we should stop the stigma around mental health illnesses, because they're just like any other illnesses. Just like this is in the, it's more of the brain and the hormones, but it is just like any other. So if you realize that you could be suffering from depression, please seek medical assistance, to the mental health practitioners, the psychologists, the psychiatrists. You could also go to a hospital. If they don't have any of that, they can refer you to the specialists. There are many ways of treating depression. One of the ways used is through medication. We have antidepressants, but that, do not get it when you're in without a prescription. It's a prescription drug, and if you're using it, please do not abuse it. You know. So we have the medication. Do not self-medicate yourself. We also have behavioral therapies like the CBT. So we also have social groups where people with depression, people who are struggling with depression, can meet up and speak heart to heart, because they understand each other. We can relate. You can resonate with the whole thing that surrounds depression. Those are the ways that we can use to treat depression. If you're using drugs and you realize that you have depression, then I request, it is a humble request,
To go for
I
rehab.
plead with you to quit drugs, because the more you use drugs, the more you destabilize yourself, and the more you sink into the depression. Because you're feeding the depression. So you can quit drugs and go for a detox to just clear your system. Yes. Other ways, we also have rehabilitation centers. So you could just visit one rehabilitation center, either for the detox or also for the problem, depression as a whole. Yes. To just have a serene environment to go through everything. If you have depression, if you've been diagnosed with depression, then acceptance is key. Just like any other chronic disease, you will need to come to terms with that, because the sooner you accept it, the easier it will be for you to deal with it, before it is advanced.
So guys, again, another thing which you may learn, that we have categories of people who are at risk. If I may add, we have the gender like men. These men, actually, if I may try to help ourselves, I'm a man, we usually have that ego that we don't want to speak it out. We are going to solve the problem by our own. But at the end of the day, we get that we were depressed, and then we are not going to help ourselves by ourselves. So what are we going to do? Kindly, we have to seek help, which is talking it out to a friend, who, or you go to any facility, a medical facility, so that you see a practitioner or a specialist in that, so that mental health you may understand that it is a problem, it's a sickness of its own. And also we also have what we looked last week on teenage pregnancy. Teenagers also, they also go through the same, because this is a child who has been impregnated, and then they don't know how to deal with it. So prenatal stress comes out, they don't know how to deal with it. So these are the people whom we need the society to understand that it is a problem which we need to deal with. So, Steph, I appreciate, at least we have understood, we are learning actually. I've also learned a lot what is depression, and then let's help each other. That is it.
Yes.
Talk, talk it out, speak it out, so that you may get help. Your final words as we conclude.
My final words, my parting shot will be, I will still emphasize depression is an illness like any other. So let us not stigmatize people with depression. Let us not say they are cursed. Let us not say they're abnormal, you know. Let us not brand them names that make them feel worthless. See, let us not mess with their self-esteem, because, as we said before, depression, one of the signs of depression is also low self-esteem and self-confidence. So when someone who's already has feelings of low self-esteem, and then you want to add into their luggage, see, it makes it so heavy for them. And let us embrace people who come out to say that, you know, I have struggled with depression, because they also enlighten us, you know. They also part that as fellow human beings as we see, because in life we all at risk of an illness, be it physical, let's say typhoid, malaria, the mental, which brings about all this, speak about depression and other illnesses that we may not be able to expound on in this particular forum. We also have spiritual illness, you know. We also have psychological. So in life, we all have a risk to any of the illnesses, but the most common one is physical. But as we can see right now, mental illnesses have escalated, and it is normal. So let us not stigmatize people. As much as maybe you knew someone who was doing something that might have led to that, you see, environmental factors, let us not stigmatize them, because they need love. And if you're with someone, or if you know someone who has depression and have not sought help, please encourage them. And if I tell us, if you realize that someone could be depressed, don't try to dig in so much without you knowing how what you will do without information. Understand? Let's not try giving advice. Yes, I want to commit suicide, so don't tell me that it is abnormal. You know, don't, because everyone, we're all justified, you know, and at that point they're justified to feel the way they are feeling. So let's not try giving them advice like do this, if you do not know how you will deal with that information. Understand? So don't sink them deeper in the hole. Also, ask them to seek help. If you know someone, we also have support groups or online. You could just encourage them to go there if because it's an anonymous platform without fear of victimization. We have helplines that one could seek. And if these are our family members or our friends, kindly let us embrace them, let us show them love, because they deserve it. You know, love is a natural human need. And above all, let us stay positive, because we all struggling with something. You may not be struggling with depression, but you're struggling with something.
Yeah.
No. So they're all struggles. So may the struggles that we have unite us instead of making us break
Bring
all
love
apart.
together.
Yes.
So thank you guys. Actually, what we are learning as we finish is that let love be held above us everything. So that if love is there, actually what we may say that it is going to solve everything. If I love you, if you love me, and then everyone receives this love, then we are going to solve so many problems which we have. So guys, until next time, I will like to appreciate you viewers for having us here, and then until next time, kindly subscribe, and then we follow together and we learn together. Thank you guys so much.
Cheers.
Bye.